Greetings, brothers and sisters. So this is President JoJo Magoo. My wife sent me this a couple days ago, and then today I noticed there was all kinds of messages on Facebook and Instagram, and I haven't got to the comments yet, with people talking about this, and then something to do with Kamala. I got a bunch of things to get to, some follow-up stuff. But let's start here with President JoJo Magoo, who is going to get weird again. This is a military wife. This is Dr. Jill Biden.
9 Air Force Academy graduation. And I said, I actually get to shake the president's hand.
Wait, you mean Trump is there?
And I said, I actually get to shake the president's hand. I win, don't you agree? Thank you.
No, I don't think you do win. Touching this school hand isn't winning. Even better, getting a hug. She's getting a hug. Even better, getting a hug from the snoozler groper. Look at this guy looking away. Look. He's like, come on, Mom. Don't let that creep touch me. Look at the kid. So you see the little girl on the end. This is going to be, she's going to be the subject of JoJo's creepiness in just a moment.
How'd you guys get comfortable? I'm especially honored to share the stage with Brittany and Jordan and Nathan and Margaret Catherine. I love those barrettes in her hair, man. I tell you what, and look at her. She looks like she's 19 years old, sitting there with her, like a little lady in her legs caught.
No parent wants to hear, or adults in general, a creepy old man, JoJo, who's had a long history of snoozling, groping, and doing weird stuff in public venues like this, that their 6-year-old kid looks like a 19-year-old to JoJo. He looked at her and said she looks like she's 19. So to put this in proper perspective, let's go back to earlier in this presentation. So to understand what JoJo Magoo was talking about here, President JoJo Magoo, here's his wife Jill, who butchers a couple of names because she's a doctor, Dr. Jill Biden.
With a deployed partner. I want to thank you and your children, Jordan, Nathan, and Margaret Catherine.
Yeah, that's pronounced Nathan, but go ahead.
For your strength, resilience, and everything you do every day to keep us safe. Brittany?
So this is Brittany. This is Nathan. There's JoJo Magoo. Jill has problems with the names. JoJo has problems with everything else and the names. This is the one that looks like a 19-year-old girl. This is Margaret Catherine, who I believe is 6 years old. And JoJo is looking at her saying she looks like a 19-year-old. Like, how does she look like a 19-year-old? Like, why would that be what you see here?
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am Brittany Bean, and these are my well-behaved, yay, and adorable children, Margaret Catherine, Nathan, and Jordan. My husband, Major Bean, is overseas in Afghanistan. He has been gone for 6 months.
Look at JoJo. What's he looking at? The woman or the kid, or what's he doing over there?
And he will return in about 6 more months, about in time for Christmas. On this moment,
he actually looks like a wax figure of himself. He looks like he's wax. He's made out of wax, Mr. Magoo.
Memorial Day, we are asked to honor, remember, and mourn those airmen, servicemen, and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice.
So again, there's JoJo, wax figure JoJo Magoo. There's a depressed-looking Jill Biden. And here is this military wife and her 6-year-old daughter that JoJo thinks looks like she's 19.
I'm especially honored to share the stage with Brittany and Jordan and Nathan and Margaret Catherine. I love those barrettes in her hair, man. I tell you what, and look at her. She looks like she's 19 years old, sitting there with her, like a little lady in her legs caught.
So that would be creepy on its own because it's weird. Like, she doesn't look like a 19-year-old. She looks like a, 6-year-old kid. And it's appropriate for her to look like a 6-year-old kid. And it's weird to say she looks like she's 19, and that whole thing is, strange on its own. But then you think about all the other times JoJo's acted weird towards little girls specifically, but women and, kids in general, and just being touchy and all these things. Stuff that the mainstream media used to talk about when they didn't want JoJo to run for president against Hillary Clinton. Remember that? I showed you that in multiple videos. Jon Stewart used to make fun of him and all these other people. So it isn't like they didn't know. And so when he says something like this now and pretends that, everyone pretends he's a great guy, right? Calling him fantastic and all these things. Then there was this. Kamala Harris blasted for enjoy the long weekend tweet with no mention of Memorial Day. People who, in terms of politics, it is, here's the tweet here. In terms of politics, it is a day where people, are celebrated for giving up their lives for, military service, in the active military service, which Kamala Harris isn't, been a part of. And so she says, enjoy the long weekend, and posts a picture of herself, right? No, thank you. Just the typical kind of stuff that you say, thank you for your service. And this is just politics 101. Here's what that Brittany woman said.
Memorial Day, we are asked to honor, remember, and mourn those airmen, servicemen, and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Enjoy the long weekend. And so, that's what they say. The ultimate sacrifice. This is to honor them, mourn them, like all the things that she said. Those are typical statements. And that's, military woman, a military wife, someone who served in the military and also has a husband. It's a military family. And they, that's what they want to hear. That's something politics 101. Like just a weird, self-centered, narcissistic, enjoy the long weekend. We got a holiday or something on Monday, right? And I'll give you a picture of me smiling. And what makes it worse is this. She's given a speech to the Navy. And she, let's just listen to her bury herself here.
You are electrical engineers who will soon help convert solar and wind energy into power, convert solar and wind energy into combat power.
What a horrible speech giver. Just, she's just bad at being a politician. They propped her up during the election, like during the primary. They were putting her out there, and, Chris Matthews said his dream ticket. This was this was early on. Remember, Chris Matthews got Me Too'd. And he said his dream ticket was Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And they were putting this out there, this idea. They were talking about this, ticket about 2 years before the election itself, like early on. And then they propped her up, and she got up to about 12 points, and she confronted Joe Biden in that, weird confrontation about her being bused to school and all those things. There was all these guys, there was all these candidates like Hickenlooper, and, they had like 20 candidates. And they had a few of them that were considered serious, like, oh, this person could win the primary. And Kamala was one of them, and no one really knew why. In terms of her, she wasn't likable. She wasn't a good politician. And she didn't have the kind of record and, time in politics that would justify her being sort of a front runner. And she went up to 12 points with them pushing her. And then people started to listen to her. And immediately she went down below 1% of Democrats. Not 1% of the country. 1% of Democrats didn't even like her, right? You think about that. And she was, and then she withdrew before one vote was cast. Her candidacy collapsed. So she completely underperformed. They gave her a prime, position where she was, one of these people taken seriously. Like, this person could be a president, could be the president today. And the American people rejected her, And the American Democrats rejected her, and the Republicans even worse, and independents. And because she says things like this.
And just ask any Marine today, would she rather carry 20 pounds of batteries or a rolled up solar panel? And I am positive she will tell you a solar panel, and so would he.
Wow, that was so icky, right? This battle of the sexes that they're pushing, like, she could have said she and he. She could have put women first, but that still would be, it's just an agenda-driven statement. But saying it's, the majority of Marines are he, and historically. Like, do you want to have the Marines be all women? Is that what you're saying? Or should the women and men be in competition as instead of being, working together? Do you want to put this out where when a leader rewards one side and doesn't reward the other side, right? Like I've told this story before. When I was living in New Mexico, I lived in like a shared house, and the guy who owned the house was a psychologist, and he took rich kids out into the desert, like in the wilderness, and they would camp. And there was actually a reality TV show that was about this. The kids would go camping for months, and it seemed to work in some way, getting them, away from their entitled lives. And then I had a coworker. He was like an ex-college football player, and he was really big into camping and hiking. And he used to do the same job, but it was with kids who were like underprivileged. And he would take these kids out into the woods with a couple of staff members, and it'd be like 3 staff members and 12 kids. And that's usually the ratio, like 1 to 4. And one time, one of the staff members just didn't show up. And the other guy was new, and he, it's not a job that most people could do. Most people can't, handle the camping and then the stress of working with, horrible kids, like kids who are just have horrible behaviors. Just, nightmares. Like I worked in treatment centers, and it's really difficult. And it's really hard to imagine what it's like working with those populations of kids who are really poorly behaved, and then they put them all together, and they're all like posturing with each other because they're all like, junior level criminals and really horrible people. So they all like put on their tough guy, so they get even worse when they get together in a group, right? And so this other guy who was just new quits. And so, my coworker was out there in the woods with 12 like junior level criminal kids, right? Just horrible kids. And 2 of the kids started to be friends, and he knew it would be a problem because then they start, planning and, maybe getting some more kids involved in it. And, next thing you know, there's some sort of insurrection out there in the woods, and like he's out there in the wilderness with no backup and no, it's just nothing. So to break them up, he gives one of the kids a candy bar, and he knew the kid would be selfish because they always were. And the other kid gets jealous of him, and so their friendship, breaks up, right? So when an authority figure rewards one person, or when an authority figure is prejudiced against one group, and this is what a lot of the complaints are from the so-called woke people. And so when Kamala, as vice president, is giving a speech to the Navy, and she, is promoting women, like women soldiers, and all that kind of stuff, right? This woke stuff is just going to cause division and hostility, right? When there needs to be unity. It's the worst thing you can do. And so she botches Memorial Day, like she doesn't, thank the soldiers, which is politics 101. She's such a nightmare. Like you think about how bad JoJo is, so Kamala's kind of hidden, but she's just a nightmare. And then she goes and talks up women soldiers, and then men soldiers are who have been traditionally the ones that have been on the front lines because they're bigger and physically stronger in most cases, right? And so you have, for years it's always been the men who are in the military, and now she's, pushing this woke agenda on the military. And then she gives that cackle afterwards. Let's see that again.
And I am positive she will tell you a solar panel, and so would he.
Just a horrible gaffe, like just stupidity. And, if there was a media, they would drill her for all these things. And JoJo for that weird comment. Like, that shows you how bad it is, because the mainstream media isn't even covering this. And it's just one debacle after another. She hasn't given one press conference on the border crisis that she was put in charge of. She wants no part of that. And I wonder if JoJo just did that on his own. See, there's a couple of scenarios, because JoJo Magoo, President JoJo Magoo, put Kamala in charge of the border crisis because Barack Obama did the same thing to him. And this one's much worse because the political stance that JoJo Magoo campaigned on and how Trump was perceived by migrants coming to America was, it's created this vacuum of people who are thinking this is the time to get to America. And then with the crises that are going around globally because of COVID, the poverty in these, third world countries and things, you have it's just going to be all these people running into the country because this is their opportunity. And so it isn't the same thing that JoJo had to deal with, especially now with the, everything that's happened in the past so many years and the way that politics has gone and the stuff with immigration. And so by putting her in charge of that, something that can't possibly end well or get better, he screwed her over. So either his team realized that they're trying to edge him out because he's senile and, he's got dementia or whatever it is, and that the powers that be are trying to push Kamala on the scene. So maybe he did it, his team told him to do it to screw her over. Or he just off the cuff decided to do it. But clearly she was never consulted, her team and the people, her handlers were never consulted. And so it shows you like this inner dynamics because he completely screwed her over. And, she's not electable. She's not a likable politician. JoJo sort of appealed to blue-collar workers a little bit. He has that sort of tough guy thing that he does. And, come on, man, right? But Kamala is just an elitist and somebody people don't like. The Democrats don't like her. And she was just forced on the American people because of the way that they, did Trump and all of the rest of it. But she's not an electable person. She's not somebody who goes out and wins people over. People don't like her. And then in no particular order, Cruella star Emma Stone says Disney villain Ursula should get her own movie. And so this is remember Ursula, she was, I don't think I ever saw this movie, but she was the villain in The Little Mermaid. Now they are making the villains the heroes. It just shows you everything that's going on. I mean, this is the collapse of your society. Not that the Disney movies were ever good or the heroes, or there was always weird stuff in Disney movies, and Walt Disney was a weird guy. I've covered that before. Disney's evil in lots of different ways. And they took fairy tales and they took things that were, classic stories, like the, is it A.A. Milne or L.L. Milne or something that wrote Winnie the Pooh? He hated what Disney did to Winnie the Pooh in terms of, they rewrite things and they, they take classic stories and they twist them around. But at least there was a definite villain and hero. There was a hero and a villain in these child movies. And now they're blurring the lines and making the villains the heroes. And because Emma Stone just did this thing, Cruella, Devil, who's now got her own movie, where there's sympathy for, the devil in that movie. And also Baphomet in Maleficent. And then The Descendants were a TV show about four grandchildren of villains, right, that were being celebrated as hero. And now Emma Stone's like, oh, we should turn this woman, especially, they want to do it with the woman villains. The women villains were just all misunderstood. Speaking of villainous families, how supporting Meghan through her suicidal thoughts helped Harry understand others. Harry's, is turning the world of mental health upside down with Oprah Winfrey. Newly released radar footage shows UFOs swarming Navy ship, filmmaker claims. It isn't a very conclusive video, but it does show a bunch of blips, radar blips, and the guy saying they're going really fast.
781 just sped up to 46 knots, 50 knots, closing in. Oh, 138 knots. Oh, fast.
That one's pretty much perfectly 000 relative, right?
Yeah.
So these things are going fast, and there's they're giving out superficial footage that is very ambiguous, when there is, like I've just covered this in other videos. I'll talk about this more if anything substantial comes out. But there's all this evidence that historically there was, these people called space people or sky people that were known worldwide, and then about 5,000 years ago, they, started to suppress this information. And now they're having to, figure out what to do with it, and they're not doing a good job. And you're never going to get the truth from them. They're just going to give you a new set of lies. So I covered this before. This basketball player named Liz Cambage was very upset when this coach, is he up here somewhere? This coach here, wearing a very sporty shirt, with a pink shirt with green cactuses on it, was trying to get a call in a basketball game, and he said that, come on, she's 300 pounds. And she threatened him, right? Here's the WNBA star rips opposing coach for commenting on her weight during game, and she says he's lucky it didn't happen somewhere else. And she stared in the camera menacingly.
6'8". I'm weighing, I just double checked because I love to be correct and get facts. I'm weighing 235 pounds, and I'm very proud of being a big bitch. Body, Big Ben's baby. So don't ever try to disrespect me or another woman in the league. I don't know if that's how coaches run. You just try to disrespect women like that from the sideline. And you're so lucky it was during a game. That whole part, you were so lucky that I was doing my job. Anyway, to that little man, whole little tiny, where is you?
Where is you? And so here he is apologizing down here. I made an inappropriate and offensive comment in reference to Liv Cambage's height and weight. I regret what I said in the heat of the moment and want to sincerely apologize to Liz and the entire ACES organization. I understand the gravity of my words and have learned from this. The gravity of his words. The 300-pound gravity. I'm not defending this dude because he looks like a real tool. And he said something stupid. Anybody knows, especially any man should know, that talking about women's weight is off the table. But, like I said in the other video, if you want equality, and this is part of equality, right? I mean, there's a new WNBA video out there. So this is a Nike commercial for the WNBA. The problem isn't that we're lacking for MVPs. They got MVPs. We aren't skimping on buzzer beaters and nail biters. Boom, look at buzzer beaters. They got that. Problem isn't that we don't dunk. There's a dunk. There's another dunk. Boom. There was kind of a dunk. That last one was just sort of a dunk. It was a dunk, but nothing that anybody would be proud, barely a dunk. The problem isn't due to lack of trash talk. Is that, look at this trash talk, dancing. And it isn't the lack of speaking up for what we believe in. Social activism, that's a big draw in the WNBA. The only problem with the WNBA is you're not watching. It's your fault. Like, it's your fault you're not watching, you know? It's not as good. The NBA, the WNBA, the level of basketball, isn't as good. The best WNBA team would not win one game against the worst NBA basketball team. Like, it just wouldn't be close. And most male college level basketball, high level teams, the WNBA couldn't compete in the NCAA, right? The best, an all-star team of the WNBA couldn't compete in NCAA Division I men's basketball. And so it's lower than even college basketball in terms of the quality of the play. And so, again, it's your fault. Like, this is Nike's marketing campaign. It's your fault you're not watching. When NBA, and a lot of it has to do with faketivism, their fake activism, is, in itself hemorrhaging viewers. And it's not just the faketivism, it's also the acting. So listen to what the announcers say here. This is how bad the acting has gotten in the NBA.
The weird thing about this is that there was no stoppage in play, but because man got upset, the referees want to take a pause and figure out what happened.
And so what happened is, here's this guy, Willie Cauley-Stein, and this other guy who was named Terrence Mann. And Terrence Mann's a rookie, I believe, rookie or second-year player, and a scrub, doesn't play that much for the Clippers. And Willie Cauley-Stein is sort of a backup center, plays a little bit. Neither one of these guys is stars. And they don't have a great angle on this, like a great close-up. But they're fighting for a rebound here. And they get tangled up here, right? And so this is just typical stuff that happens in a basketball game. Then he's grabbing onto him. This guy, Terrence Mann, is grabbing onto Willie Cauley-Stein. Willie Cauley-Stein, pushes him away very gently, right? And Terrence Mann flops. He falls down like he was, he was pushed in a way that was unusual, right? This is the level of acting now. It's a complete flop, right? And then he flops down again. He looks at the official, right? Hey, why did you call a foul on that? He looks at the official and is talking to the official. He's saying, why didn't you call a foul on that? And then he gets up. He's like, oh, I'm so angry, right? And so now he's going to make a thing about it because, he was acting and they didn't call. And then he's got to be held back by his teammate and his coach. Look, he's so angry. But if he was that angry, he wouldn't have looked at the official and said, why didn't you call a foul and hold his hands up, right? Let's look at that again. Here's his teammates. They're looking at it. This guy, Willie Cauley-Stein, they're all looking up at the screen and seeing if, something happened. That guy puts his hands up and this guy's laughing because he knows it's a complete joke, right? That wasn't anything, that's just some guy acting. And they're like, oh, come on. He's looking up are you serious? That's great, right? Because it's all acting. You can see here, again, he falls down. Could be called a foul, but they're both, entangled. And him falling and flopping, that's not a natural fall. And so, again, acting. This is a lower level player. This is a player who barely plays. I think he's a rookie, which rookies get all kinds of hazing and. And so he looked at the official, and then he's like, oh, I didn't call anything. I'm going to get mad. I'm going to run up there and get mad. And it delayed the game by, I don't know how much, 3 or 4 minutes. I could fast forward it because I was watching on YouTube TV. But it's the kind of thing that wrecks basketball games. It's 3 minutes for this thing, right? So they have a different angle here where he pushed him. Look at his fake fall. He just flailing his arms up, right here. Here it is again in a different angle. Again, he pushed him very gently. He's not, and this guy's not some tough guy or, and there's the fake fall where whatever. And then he's looking at the official. And so they call a technical foul on this guy when everybody who watched it, the crowd's booing because it's taking place in Dallas. And it was just a complete, acting job. And he goes up to the dude. He goes up to the guy and starts saying, that was BS or whatever he's saying. And this guy's putting his arms out come on, like, he's not angry anymore. And he's talking, and then he's like, and this guy, I think it's Josh Howard comes up. The guy was like, yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, he's laughing, right? And they're like laughing about it. And he's like whispering to him, like, yeah, I was acting, right? And he's smiling. They're joking around now because it wasn't a real thing. And they get a technical foul and get extra points. And it's wrecking the NBA, acting. Like LeBron doing it as the top person. I've been covering this in videos. Like him acting and this faketivism, right? Because this is lying. This is a form of, lying and cheating the game, right? A game that is paying you a lot of money. And fans want an outcome. They want to see a winner and a loser. It's nothing worse in sports when something is questionable, when the game is decided by a questionable call or something like this. You want, considering it's entertainment, right? This is something where they can, have something be entertaining. And you can have a winner and a loser. But if you have controversy and acting and faking and things like this, right? And they're laughing because they all do this stuff, right? They're all acting all the time, trying to get a call, trying to, get some sort of an advantage. And we have a competition. When something's a competition, the whole idea is, to test yourself against your opponent, right? Like when there's contests in nature in terms of the male in the species trying to prove its physical strength for the, to win the females and be able to mate and whatever it might be. And so whatever display it might be. But there is, a natural sort of competition. And if you cheat that, right, if you cheat the competition, you're in a sense cheating yourself because there's no, you didn't win. So at some level of your subconscious. And all of these games, going back to Tom Brady deflating the footballs and, Bill Belichick getting caught spying. And so all of their Super Bowls are questioned, right? They're tainted. And anything in the NBA or, the NFL because of betting and gambling is all tainted as well. There's more money in betting than there is. Like the NFL makes like $20 billion and there's like $80 billion worth of betting, crazy amounts of money. And so, everything's tainted in this way, right? And going back to the beginning of the video about JoJo, Magoo and Kamala Harris and just up and down the line here, it's about having character. This fake wokeness is about having character qualities. If you are saying that oppressed because of your skin color, because you're a woman, or you're part of the LGBTQ or whatever it might be, whatever reason that you think your group is oppressed, it's really about what you have on the inside in terms of your character. And if you're going to replace the dominant group, then you have to be, you have to have good character qualities. Years ago, Master Charji, the third master of the Heartfulness system, used to visit the ashram in Molina, Georgia, and he had there's a place where he would sleep, and there was a courtyard, and there was sort of a balcony out there, and he'd come out and talk to everybody. And there was like security. You wouldn't call it security, but you're kind of like just a gentle bouncer, keeping people from rushing in, and people would run into Master Charji's room, some of the less disciplined people or whatever it was. And he came out, he had some chocolates, he was handing chocolates out to kids, big crowd of people. And he doesn't see that well, he didn't see that well, he had, eye problems, and people are putting up their hands, and he was trying to give the chocolates just to kids, right? It was like, for children. And this young woman came up, and she was, in her 20s, but she looked a little bit young. And she got a chocolate, and, one of my friends was doing security, and he was standing right next to Master Charji, and he sees this woman, and her face lights up, she got this chocolate, and Master Charji whispered, "You betray yourself for a piece of chocolate?" She was in her 20s. He sees that she's in her 20s. She's not a kid, and she's, sneaking up and taking a piece of chocolate because she looks young, and, she's there for spiritual evolution and to be a better person and connect to God, and she's stealing chocolate from kids, right? And so, So I mean, it's kind of sad, but this stuff exists, and it's, you know, it's prevalent in our whole society because you cheat yourself, right? When you lie and you deceive and you scam to get something that you don't deserve or whatever it is, you manipulate, then, you know, you're just, I mean, you're bad on the inside. Doesn't matter what you look like on the outside. Like, they want to change the power structure. They want to get rid of the, you know, white male bully oppressive, you know, the man, right? And they're replacing it with people who are equally as bad on the inside. They might look different on the periphery of their existence. There'll be a different color, different sex, a different sexual orientation, but on the inside, it's the same people, right? Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And so it's not changing who you are on the inside. Like, that's what really matters, is that you change on the inside. It's the heartfulness meditation that helps to divinize people on the inside and ennoble their character and make them into the best version of themselves. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.